Guys, I hope that you and your families are staying safe and well. It certainly has been a character building year of this pandemic. But despite the enormous challenges this year has brought, we not only survived at our fabulous College of Nursing, but we thrived because of the amazing team that we have in this college. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for Masterminds in Nursing, Transforming the Future of Health. Tonight, we will hear a series of short, engaging talks made by our fantastic faculty. We will conclude our event with a question and answer session. So please submit your questions throughout the program using the questions feature on your screen. At our college, we equip the next generation of inspired nurses and healthcare professionals with the knowledge and skills they need to transform health and improve lives. We teach all of our students how to live well, and that stands for lead, innovate, vision, execute, be wellness-focused, evidence-based, lifelong learners, and lights for the world, making a positive impact locally to globally. And we teach all of our students to dream big as if they cannot fail. Our college's mission is to dream, discover, and deliver a healthier world. This is so important now, more than ever, as we continue to face a pandemic of epic proportion. And our healthcare system is moving at such a rapid pace. Tonight, you will hear from our very dynamic faculty and researchers who are contributing to a dynamic, transformed future of health. I'm actually going to launch this Masterminds event tonight. Nurses, we do a great job at caring for everybody else, but we often don't prioritize our own self-care. So let's listen to what I believe is a very important message in my first talk. I'm going to begin my talk by asking you to reflect on 3 important questions. Number 1, what will you do in the next 5 to 10 years if you know you cannot fail? Number 2, will your current health and well-being help you achieve that dream, or will it be a deterrent? Number 3, what will your life look like in your last 10 years? Will they be full of joy and activities with the people whom you love? Or will they be filled with chronic disease? Maybe that even has you in a hospital bed. These questions are so very key, and you'll understand why in a few minutes. Well, about 10 years ago, I left sunny Arizona to come to Buckeye Nation in a dream job that I had visioned. One, to be the country's first chief wellness officer at a university. Number two, to be the dean of what I believe is the best, most innovative college of nursing on the planet. Why am I so passionate about wellness and prevention? It stems back to my childhood. I grew up in a small little coal mining town an hour south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My dad was a coal miner. We lived in half of a little company house. I'm sure we were labeled working poor, but I was born with resiliency. In fact, I still can make lemonade out of lemons any day. That resiliency came in so handy when I was 15 years of age, home alone with my mom when she sneezed, stroked out, and died right in front of me. You can imagine how traumatic that was for a teenager. I suffered with terrible post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety for a few years. But you know the story. What doesn't break us only makes us stronger. And as a result of what I went through as a teen, I became passionate about becoming a nurse, then a pediatric nurse practitioner, a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and going on to get my PhD so I could develop evidence-based interventions that it could improve the mental health of children, teens, and young adults all throughout the world. Well, the saddest part of my mom's story, she had headaches for over a year. And my dad kept saying, would you go to the doctor? Please figure out what's wrong. She went to our family physician just 1 week before she died, diagnosed with high blood pressure, given a prescription of a high blood pressure medication that my dad found in her purse after she died. Flash forward to 2021. Less than 25% of people with high blood pressure have it under control, even though it's the leading risk factor for a heart attack and stroke. Well, self-care is absolutely necessary for the safe, high-quality care of other people. Nurses do a great job caring for everybody else, but they often don't practice good self-care. We just published a major study, 771 critical care nurses all throughout the United States. About 40% of them reported depression. About 51% reported clinical anxiety. and over 60% reported poor quality of life. Self-care is not selfish. We need to prioritize our own self-care for our population's health and well-being, and to take safe and great care of others. My last 2 studies showed nurses who were depressed and in poor physical health reported more medical errors. So it does negatively impact healthcare quality and safety. Although cardiovascular disease is still the #1 killer in America, if you take into consideration all causes of death and disease in this country, it's our behaviors that are the #1 killer. So please beware of the chair. We could improve our cardiac health by 30% by just moving more and sitting less. But sadly, facts don't often get people to change. That's why I tell emotional stories, because most people don't change unless crisis happens or their emotions are raised. If I could get everybody in the United States to just do these 4 healthy lifestyle behaviors, we could cut our rate of chronic disease by 80%. Add on top of these 4 behaviors 7 hours of sleep, the practice of stress reduction every day, we could cut the rate of chronic disease even further. Even 11 minutes of physical activity a day can improve our cardiac health. We all can do that. Put on top of that the daily practice of gratitude, getting up every morning, thinking about the people and things we're grateful for, doing that again at night can improve mood, blood pressure, sleep, and reduce our stress. My challenge to you today is to make today January 1. Pick one of those behaviors that I just talked about and make a goal to get just a little bit better at that behavior. If you only engage in physical activity 10 minutes twice a week, set a goal to go to 15. But write it down. Put it where you can see it every day. It will motivate you to achieve that goal. Unfortunately, we still live in a very sick care, crisis-oriented healthcare system. We must change that paradigm from sick care to wellness and prevention, because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Who are you going to do it for? This is my beautiful family. They motivate me to get up in the morning, to engage in physical activity, to eat healthy, because I didn't have a mom to see me graduate from high school, college, go on to have this beautiful family. Who is going to motivate you every day to get just a little better with your lifestyle behaviors, so the last 10 years of your life can be spent joyful and with the people whom you love? So with that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Timiya Nolan. We had the pleasure of recruiting Timiya as assistant professor and nurse scientist at our College of Nursing and the James Comprehensive Cancer Center a couple of years ago. Timiya is a health disparities focused nurse scientist studying issues in cancer control. Her community-based participatory research program is identifying, understanding contextual factors of quality of life and health among individuals from underrepresented, underserved populations, and translating findings to the development, implementation, and dissemination of multi-level, culturally sensitive interventions. Timiya's work has been supported by the National Cancer Institute, the American Cancer Society, the Susan G. Komen Foundation, amongst others. She has received numerous awards and honors, including recognition as a 2017 NIH Future Research Leader and Columbus Business First 40 Under 40 Class of 2020. Please join me in learning the importance of how leveraging relationships is critical to building healthy Black communities.
Growing up in LA, not Los Angeles, but Lower Alabama, I had the best time being with my family. You see, my beautiful Black family was close, literally and figuratively. We had long talks under the shade of a pecan tree that spread across the yard. We shared warm hugs and awesome work ethics. And one of my first introductions to hard work was seeing my family sowing good seeds into fertile ground and reaping a harvest of fruits and vegetables from our garden. My grandmothers, grandfathers, and even my mother had green thumbs, and anything they planted, it grew. And I had the pleasure of eating it. You see, I never had green thumbs, and I knew where I could be most helpful. But among the fruits and vegetables in our garden, there were also weeds that grew. And my folks would go out into the garden and pull up those weeds, because if weeds were allowed to grow, they would choke the fertile soil that grew those delicious fruits and vegetables that I like to eat at mealtimes. And as I've grown through the many seasons of sowing and harvesting, I earned a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a PhD in nursing at the University of Alabama at Birmingham before coming to The Ohio State University. And I did not forget the lessons that I learned from the garden in Lower Alabama. As a nurse practitioner and scientist, I still lack those green thumbs for literal gardens, but I found my green thumbs for sowing good seeds into the fertile soil of my own garden, the people within underserved and underrepresented communities. And in turn, I see the fruits of my labors when communities and patients are reaping harvests of improved health and quality of life. Nonetheless, what drew me to the underserved and underrepresented communities were the weeds of chronic diseases. All around me, I saw evidence of weeds. Growing up, I sat in the parking lot waiting on my folks to pick up prescription pills from the local pharmacy, and those pills would eventually end up being placed on the kitchen counters or bedside tables of adult family members in my family. They would be taken every day, sometimes twice a day, to manage hypertension and diabetes and even cancer. And this was just in my family. But U.S. statistics show that Black women are 40% more likely to die of breast cancer than white women. And Black people are twice more likely to have hypertension than white people. So I've rooted myself in the practice of community-based participatory research, which involves community members and patients in every aspect of the research process. We're working together to create and sustain better health outcomes in the Black community. So let me tell you what I've learned as a gardener of community health. First, I learned to recognize when there is good soil. Every community has good soil, which is the capacity that already exists. It's the families with a health-conscious granddaughter like me who hid her grandfather's cigarettes and told him that she didn't want secondhand smoke in her lungs. It's the movers and shakers in the community that know everybody in the community and can bring scientific experts to the tables with community experts who have the lived experiences. It's the organizations, academic health systems, community and government organizations that have programs and facilities. There's good soil, good fertile soil in our communities. Second, I've learned to bring good seeds to the good soil. And importantly, I learned that only the right seeds planted at the right time will grow. So in my case, I got to know my community. I got to know which seeds or interventions would grow in the communities that I serve. And these seeds that I sow are those that teach community members how to recognize the weeds disease like breast cancer and heart disease. I teach them about the benefits of a healthy lifestyle and other evidence-based methods to reduce symptoms. And we work to pull those figurative weeds. You see, my work focuses on tooling and motivating people within communities to self-manage their disease. And I've done my job effectively if I create other gardeners of health. It's really a great job. And the third thing that I've learned is to build and nurture relationships with people across sectors. And it's great because I like talking to good people. I get that from my mom. Outside of people, my mom talks to her plants. And in fact, her pride and joy is a fern that she received in honor of my late grandfather. And she's talked to that fern since 2016. And what was once a small piece of greenery in a pot of soil now looks like a tree. And this speaks volumes because building and nurturing relationships is so crucial to breaking down barriers that social determinants of health may put up and promoting growth in my community garden. Now, let me give you some examples. I built relationships with young Black women with breast cancer, hearing their stories and seeing their frustrations. I built partnerships with survivors, my academic mentors, and community organizations to tailor an evidence-based intervention for these young Black women. And I've even taken what I've learned from breast cancer to heart disease. My colleagues, Drs. Daryl Gray and Joshua Joseph, and I have banded together to pull the weeds of disease here in Columbus, Ohio. We've built relationships with the National African American Male Wellness Agency, who is a staunch mover and shaker here across the nation that engages the Black community. We've built relationships with organizations like the American Heart Association and our local health departments, parks and recreations, and then the list goes on and on and on. And this is all in a project that we call Black Impact. In this project, we engaged 74 men in a lifestyle intervention. And this intervention provided them with camaraderie and relationships with us and their fellow participants in the study, a personal trainer, and even gave them exercise equipment and education on healthy diet and physical activity. And what we saw grow out of this was health. We saw statistically significant changes, but the stories were the greatest testament. Men were able to reduce or even stop taking medication for diabetes and hypertension. Men told us about their new healthy habits like biking and walking each day. Men even told us that they were experiencing less depression. So we saw in particular one gentleman who, because he heard us talk about screening for cancer, he went on to be screened himself. And once he was screened, he found out that he had prostate cancer. But his story did not stop there. That same gentleman continued to participate in our study, and he felt comfortable talking with others about other participants that he had built relationships with. And through that, he found another participant who was a survivor of prostate cancer. Isn't that amazing? The seeds that you plant grow and become beautiful plants, right? I'll also share with you another story of growth where a survivor of breast cancer has taken the initiative to rid her community of the weeds of disease. I always marvel at Raquel, who is now a master gardener of sorts. Raquel was diagnosed with breast cancer in her 20s and had trouble being taken seriously about her fears of breast cancer. And once she was diagnosed, she didn't see anyone who looked like her in waiting rooms or even in the magazines that were there. So she talked with my partners and I about her vision to assist women like her. And she kept talking to people across multiple sectors, and now she has her own freestanding clinic called Pink Tops, and it offers services and funding to local young women with breast cancer. So you see, a good gardener knows good soil, when to plant the right seed and how to get rid of the weeds, and also how to talk to plants in a relational way so that they grow healthy and strong. I learned that in Lower Alabama. And as Maya Angelou said, you can only become accomplished at something you love. And I love being a gardener of my community. I hope you will take a closer look at communities that on the surface might seem disadvantaged, but really have good soil that are waiting for your good seeds to grow good health. Thank you.
Thank you, Timiya, for that terrific presentation. Our next speaker, we were so fortunate to also recruit to our college a couple of years ago, Dr. Karen Moss. Karen is an assistant professor in our college. Her program of research focuses on the neuroscience of pain, advanced care planning, healthcare decision-making, and quality of life outcomes for patients living with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, as well as other serious chronic illness and their families. Karen examines factors that influence pain and end-of-life decision-making processes for African American older adults living with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias and their family caregivers. Karen also seeks to better understand family caregiver stress. She is a member of the Todd Monroe Lab. Please join me in learning more about the importance of end-of-life planning.
We all have a story or an experience with death and dying. My first experience was with my maternal grandmother, Caroline Monroe, affectionately called Grammy. As a young teenager growing up in Nassau, Bahamas, my grandmother was an important person in my life. You see, she was diagnosed with colon cancer and spent much of that year of her life enduring a major surgery and lengthy hospital stay. It was actually during one of her hospital stays that I witnessed my first death while visiting with her on the ward. Everything about this experience was so impactful to me that it inspired me to become a nurse. Now, when it was time for Grammy to die, she was transported back to hospital. In contrast, years later, my granduncle Edgar, her brother, also known as Pa, died peacefully at home in his sleep. So even then, I knew that if I could decide, I would have wanted to die just like Pa did. While death and dying are not fully in our control, there is at least one aspect of it that we perhaps can control. But in order to do this, we must be willing to first have the conversations. These conversations are hard for anyone, but are particularly hard for those of us in the Black diaspora. Why is that? Well, there are important cultural contexts to consider. There is also the history of slavery, racial discrimination, and injustice in medicine and research conducted even by the government of the United States. And yet, we know that African Americans are 2 times as likely to have dementia, a fatal disease. So these conversations are perhaps even more critical in this community if we are to ensure optimal end-of-life experiences that includes culturally competent, preferent, consistent care. My mission is to arm people, to help them learn how to have these conversations. This is part of the focus of my research program. It is very difficult to talk about death and dying without talking about faith and/or spirituality. No matter what our belief systems are, we all have a perception about what happens after death. So even if you believe that you will vanish into thin air once you die, that is a belief system. What are your important faith or spiritual beliefs that guide your decision making? Are there important funeral or burial practices that should be considered? If and when you are no longer able to make these decisions for yourself, who will make these decisions on your behalf? Will it be a spouse, your adult children, your parents, or a trusted friend? Have you even discussed it with them? Perhaps you should have this individual or individuals be involved in this process, or at least make them aware of their role as your surrogate decision maker. And what is it that you want? Is it your wish to be hospitalized near the end, to have CPR done, or to be on a ventilator? How will your pain be managed? And don't forget, we must also ensure documentation of these wishes in the form of an advance directive. We may like to think that we have these conversations once and be done, but our health needs, our beliefs, and our experiences change. What we really need to do is put a pin in these conversations and have them at least once a year. I see a world where we all set aside a day each year to reflect on our end-of-life wishes. For example, the existing National Healthcare Decisions Day. It is the day after taxes and a day that is set aside to have these conversations and update our plans for the end of life. As an adult, I was able to facilitate this important conversation with a dear aunt. To me, it meant everything. That I was able to make a difference, not only for my aunt, but for my entire family. And my hope is for every family to be able to have this experience, whether it's around the dining room table, enjoying grandma's mac and cheese, or simply enjoying auntie's famous cookie recipe together over Zoom. By surrounding these conversations with love, family, and perhaps food, we can make them cherished memories. I know that if we can have these conversations in the African American or Black community, a community that is less likely to have and document these conversations, and therefore desperately needs to have them, then we can have these conversations in any community. Because, in the end, we will all have experiences with death and dying. And a conversation in advance can make all the difference in the world and lead to a better quality of life for everyone involved.
Karen, thank you so much for that terrific talk. It is a difficult conversation, but so important. Our final speaker tonight is Dr. Tara Barr. Tara is an internationally recognized nurse scientist and entrepreneur with expertise in stroke, head injury, and heart disease. Her academic discoveries resulted in one issued patent and multiple provisional filings. In 2012, she co-founded Valtari Bio to bring to market a point-of-care blood test for triaging suspected stroke patients. She has maintained her role in Valtari Bio as a scientist. Tara also launched another company called Deep Roots Healing. Her life's mission is to create a person-centered, integrative, holistic approach to brain and heart disease recovery, guided by person-specific needs on a continuum. Tara is an inspirational speaker and an accomplished book co-author. She is currently working on a second book that describes her personal health challenges, which you will hear about in her talk, and how she has overcome them to thrive in her professional and personal life. Join me in learning about how embracing creativity, using our strengths, and doing things that bring us joy leads to a fulfilling life.
Burnout is a hot topic right now, and rightfully so. It is really jeopardizing our individual and collective health and well-being. And everyone seems to know how to address it, from mindfulness to meditation to self-care, even proposing a 4-day work week. But I bet that you've never heard a potential cure for burnout is to start a company. That is exactly what I did. In fact, I started 2 companies at about the same time, and it was the best thing I could have done for myself, and I'm going to share with you why. In 2013, I was beyond burnt out, and it led me down a very unhealthy path. I had a pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot that goes to your lung, when I was about 12 weeks pregnant. The emergency room physician said that I was incredibly lucky to have survived because the clot was so huge. But by the grace of God, I delivered a beautiful baby boy and I survived. I had to regain my strength through cardiac rehab, and what I learned in that process was that my work and how I was doing my work actually contributed to my condition. So I decided to make a radical change. Within a year, I left my position as an academic nurse scientist, and I created Valtari Bio, which is a neuroimmunology stroke company, and Deep Roots Healing, a nurse coaching and wellness company. You see, what I learned from my experience is that innovation can actually be a path to well-being. When we embrace creativity and use our skills and talents in a way that gives us joy, not only are we more engaged in our work, but we have higher levels of productivity and we are more satisfied with life in general. For organizations and employees, this is really a win-win. When we talk about building a culture of innovation, there are a lot of competencies that we can talk about, but there are 3 that I'm going to focus on today: creativity, courage, and teamwork. So here's an interesting statistic. 75% of people think that they are not living up to their creative potential. And worse yet, most people think that they are not creative at all. There's really a creativity crisis going on here. And there's something that I want you to know about creativity. As long as you have a functioning brain, then you have the capability of being creative. And innovation simply doesn't happen without creativity. In fact, creativity is the seed of innovation, and anyone can be creative. It just takes some effort. This happens by nurturing a culture of curiosity and a spirit of inquiry. Choosing to engage in a creative activity just once a day, like mind mapping, journaling, doodling, can lead to a more positive state of mind and help you to get into the flow, which is that state of mind in which everything seems possible and you feel like you're just kind of rocking it. Here at The Ohio State University College of Nursing, we have something called the Innovation Studio, which is the brainchild of my colleague, Dr. Tim Raderstorff. What I love most about the Innovation Studio is that this model gives everyone an opportunity to be creative. We don't need permission to innovate from anyone but ourselves. I had a coach explain courage to me as the ability to walk through the unknown, stumbling a few times, but continuing to keep your eyes solely focused on the goal ahead. Courage isn't a lack of fear or failure. Courage is the ability to continue despite fear and failure. And when you are courageous, you recognize that mistakes are wisdom and carry incredible value. And guess what? Courage and psychological well-being are highly correlated with innovation. Why, might you ask? Well, because the ability to act in a congruent way with your values, despite fear, opposition, risk, or failure, is a human ideal and trait that makes innovation possible. Courage is vital for challenging conventional thinking and envisioning new possibilities. Innovation only happens when we are not afraid to do things differently. Now, the last competency I want to introduce you to is teamwork. And I know that teamwork isn't new. Teamwork is critical for innovation. But now I want you to consider teamwork as social connection and highly correlated with well-being, especially when teamwork is based on true camaraderie and collaboration. Being part of a team eliminates isolation. It enhances your ability to make an impact while you share the load of responsibility. This didn't always come easy to me. When I was a young professor, I was the lead on a community engagement project in rural towns across the state of West Virginia. I felt thoroughly overwhelmed by what I needed to do for this project. And I walked into the first team meeting with our community engagement partners with an agenda, an outline of the project, what we were going to do pretty much figured out. And the team lead looked at me and smiled and said, "We are so glad that you're just excited about this as we are, but we would really like the opportunity to co-create this with you. So if you would just put that away, we'll start over together." Being part of a team requires you to set your personal vision aside and co-create a shared vision. And when you do that, you recognize that things are much bigger than you, that other people are important, and being socially connected to your team cultivates true collaboration. Now, as I close, I want to highlight something incredibly important. What normally gets the most attention from my story is that I created 2 businesses following a near-death experience. But what I really want you to remember about my story is that creating those businesses impacted my well-being through innovation, creativity, courage, and teamwork. So the next time you think about innovation, I want you to think about well-being and recognize that cultures of innovation and well-being actually go hand in hand. And as a profession, it's time for us to start taking innovation seriously as a means by which we can enhance our well-being. Because when we do, we create an environment where we're not only engaged and productive, but where everyone thrives and flourishes.
Thank you, Tara, for that terrific talk. For the last 10 to 15 minutes, I encourage you to join me for a question and answer session with our terrific faculty. Please feel free to send questions in the questions section area of Zoom, and we will work to answer them. In the interim, I have some questions for our terrific faculty, so please join me now. Tara, I'm going to start with you. Why don't you think more nurses do not start companies? What holds them back? And what advice would you give to people? Because people at the end of life don't often regret what they did in life. They regret what they didn't do. So please give some good advice.
I would love to, Bern. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here and speaking with all of you. So I think it's actually 3 things that come to mind when you ask that question. It's confidence, competence, and money. So I'll address the confidence and competence one because the money one's a little complicated. But what I hear time and time again from folks when I share my story is the comment that is great, but that could never be me. I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't know the first thing about starting a business. And I have to say, well, neither did I. And I almost said no to that opportunity because I didn't feel confident enough in myself, nor did I feel competent enough because I had no idea what I needed to do to start a business. So I think by addressing those 2 things, that could eliminate a lot of the worry that most nurses have when it comes to starting a business. And some of that can be fairly simple. Some of it's a little bit more on the job training. The third one is really money and finances. There are lots of nurses who really don't want to go into industry because of the fear that the focus would be on making money. And that has been something I've had to overcome. I think personally, it's a lot, it's kind of your value system. It depends on what you see and how you see it. And until I recognized that someone was going to have to pay for anything that comes to the bedside, there's nothing for free out there. Then I was able to kind of get around this whole idea and say, well, goodness, I know what I recognize my value. I know the value we're creating. So although it's not about the money, we're doing it for a completely different purpose. There is money that will be exchanged at some point. So it's something that I think we all have to kind of get over in some ways, but I think it's those three things: confidence, competence, and money.
Thank you, Tara. Great advice. Karen, you tackled a very difficult topic in such a fabulous way. Why do you think it's so difficult for people to engage in these types of conversations? And what advice would you give family members of somebody who is aging, who is ill, to bring up and talk about this very difficult subject?
Thank you so much, Bern, and thank you so much for having me. I believe, first and foremost that because, thinking about death and dying, we focus on loss. So loss of our loved one, which is, hard to make it in that regard a happy topic. But as I mentioned in the presentation, I think there's some different ways that we can begin to think about this. And, I share what I'm sharing now as I learn from a current research study that we're conducting, where we're talking to folks and asking them these same questions. How can we get folks to want to engage around this very difficult topic? And so we're thinking through ways of helping, kind of meeting folks where they are. So if the comfort is with talking about funeral and burial planning, then let's start there. So we can talk about what we would want, to how we would want to be memorialized or funeralized, and then work our way back. So something has to happen before we get to a funeral or memorial. Let's talk about what that can look like. So that is a potential starting point. The other thing that has come up in conversation is this notion of legacy. And you hit the nail on the head earlier when you talked about when people die and what they want, what they think about, especially as we get older. And we want to focus on the good things, the impacts that we've made. So even if that is a place that we can begin to engage folks with this very difficult topic, then it's around kind of a happy spot. And then, of course, we invite food and family and friends, and everything's better, as Dr. Nolan was saying in her presentation about growing fresh vegetables and all of that great stuff. Everything's better around food. So, these are just a few of the nuanced ways that our participants are sharing with us, even just on an interview today, how they are engaging with family, older adults around these conversations even now.
That's great, Karen. Thank you. Timiya, I have a question now for you from one of our attendees, Lakeisha Cousin. She said, great presentation, Dr. Nolan. You mentioned removing weeds in your community garden in order for healthy behaviors to flourish. In your community outreach research, what were some of the hardest weeds to remove to make the biggest impact in the Black community?
That's an excellent question. And, I definitely think it's a loaded one. And so, as we think about the Black community, some of the things that we need to really make an impact on are, research, number one, and then also providing resources. We do know that in thinking about clinical trials, cancer clinical trials in particular, less than 3% of those folks who are participating in those trials are actually diverse or Black or identify as Black. And so, with a lack of representation in clinical trials, we definitely are having issues with trying to, move the needle, if you will, in getting those evidence-based practices to the population because, we're not in those trials. So research is one of the main things that we have to actually make a dent in. We've got to really diversify our clinical trials. And then also resources. One of the biggest issues that I see is people saying, well, I didn't know. No one told me. I didn't know that that resource was available. I didn't know that this organization existed. And so finding ways in which we can really help the community to connect into our academic health centers, to connect them with community partners that might have some wonderful facilities, some wonderful resources for them to be able to use. And so, as I continue the work that I'm doing, I really keep that in mind and think about research and resources. And so one of the ways in which we're doing that in the future is an event called Uplift Her, in which is a evidence-based health fair. So we're bringing out information. We're bringing out wonderful organization, our partners. We're also bringing out things like mammography, having pap smear screenings there. And so bringing those resources there to the table, in addition to research, because we'll also be having some research from my colleagues and then also myself out there. And so, making this more accessible to the Black community, and again, really helping to diversify those clinical trials that we have. And so that as we do that, we will really have some outcomes that we can really spread among those individuals. And so, we think about health equity. The only way that we're going to get to health equity is to make sure that each individual as well as each community has what they need. And that's, it can be different across the board. And so, yes, we have to do that, research and resources.
Timiya, there's one more question for you from Dan Martin. He says, the weed I want to eliminate is food insecurity. What is an addressable gap in food and or housing insecurity response in the Columbus, Central Ohio area?
That's a wonderful question. And so, as we think about food insecurity, we've got to think about where do we plug the gap? And so definitely at The Ohio State University in our College of Nursing, in fact, we have a community health worker program where we are really tooling individuals from the community about ways in which they can really help us. And I think also to the greater collaborative of Columbus as well, a healthcare collaborative of Columbus. And they have a program that's called The Hub, and they have pathways, about 20 pathways, including food insecurity and including housing insecurity, that we can use our community health workers to kind of move people through those pathways. And so there are, wonderful resources that are right here in Columbus, Ohio, but the issue that we're trying to really alleviate is that gap in between. So we use our community health workers within our systems. And I would love to see our community health worker program grow and flourish, because that's what we need. We need navigation. We need to help people to get to those places where they can really have those resources available to them. And so I think about places like all of the food banks. Mid-Ohio Food Bank is one of our largest supporters in some of the work that we do with our health fairs. And so, and one of our health fairs on May 1st, they gave us 6,000 pounds of fruits and vegetables that we were able to deliver into the community. And so there are tremendous resources, but we've got to get those people plugged in.
Thanks, Timiya. Tara, there's a question for you. And people are saying fantastic presentations from everybody, so thank you. Brittany Puncha says, resources, time, and caregiving responsibilities are often a challenge for entrepreneurs. How do you suggest nurses and nurse scientists begin to launch innovations if they're interested?
Love this question because it tells me that you might be thinking about it or someone you know is thinking about it. I think the simple response is to connect and talk to others who have done it, because there's so much you will learn from talking to those people. And it's more about answering those questions you just popped in there: resources, time, and caregiving. How do you actually do this when you've got other things that you've got to manage at home? And you're still trying to work because you got to make money. Everybody has to support their family. So I know that well. I have 4 children, and I had to continue to work while I was building my businesses on the side. Although it was not easy, it was absolutely worth it because it's what I wanted to do. It was in my soul. And I only discovered that path by reaching out, networking, and really learning from my fellow nurse entrepreneurs who had been there, done that, who I could learn from their experience, learn from their mistakes, and then take one step in front of the other. It's a very challenging journey, and it's easy to get overwhelmed. And the best thing to do is just one small step at a time, take some action, create your community and your network, and just start.
Just do it, right?
Right.
Just do it. Peter Denkowski, if you are still with us, you had your hand up. Would you like to be unmuted to ask one of our faculty a question? If not, it is...
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, Peter, we can hear you. Please ask your question.
No, I didn't want to say a question. I just wanted to thank you. It was a wonderful presentation, and I enjoyed listening to it. And then I'm an older person. I graduated from Ohio State in 1980, so you can tell how, from nursing school then in 1980, you can tell how old I am now. So some of the things you talked about earlier about, the end of life stuff, I was really starting hitting home, and as you get older. So I thought it was very, very poignant, and I really enjoyed hearing about that. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I think all of you can understand why we have the fabulous faculty. Their talent came through tonight in such a big way. So I want to thank you for joining us. I want to tell our faculty how tremendously proud of you I am and how grateful I am for you. And remember to take that dose of vitamin G for gratitude every single day. Thank you for joining us. Let's continue to dream, discover, and deliver a healthier world. Last but not least, go Buckeyes. Thank you.